Okay, so I want to thank everyone for joining. My name is Elena. I am sort of hosting on behalf of Matt today. We have some great experts on the call that have raced Boston before, so they are happy to answer any and all of your questions. These calls tend to be honestly pretty low key. We don't come into them with any huge set agenda. I just typically ask like whichever one of our experts wants to kind of go first, share their experience of racing Boston, little tidbits and tips. Um, and then if people have questions, you can either like, you don't really have to like raise your hand or use the raise your hand emoji. You can probably just unmute yourself or even maybe type it in the chat and then I'll monitor that chat just so we're not talking over one another. But so far we have a fairly small group. Usually it's more of an issue if there was like 20 or 30 people on the call. Does that all kind of make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Who of our experts would like to go first and share their Boston Marathon experience?
I can go first, Elena.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Sean.
Hey guys, Coach Sean McIntyre here. So I've run Boston twice. I also actually grew up in Newton, so going back to the high school track days, did almost every single training run on, the hills of Newton. So pretty familiar with that part of the course. I went to school at Northeastern, so did more running at the latter part of the course there in Boston and Brookline too. First time ran Boston, had the good learning curve, went out a little too fast on the downhills and paid for it in the end. So I ran 2:57 in my first Boston, and then last year in my second time actually ran it in a leprechaun costume. Got a Guinness World Record and ran 2:47. So ran it a bit smarter despite the
Eesh.
costume. So that was a very fun time, a very memorable day. So if people are also, Boston or not, that's a great way to run a marathon and kind of get yourself excited for, training, doing something different, not just training for a time, but something that'll be really fun that everybody will be interested in. So yeah, and then I'm actually running it in a couple of weeks, so that'll be Boston number 3 for me.
And question for you, Sean. So obviously, many people that have never run Boston before, they are worried about Heartbreak Hill, the Newton Hills. I think that is the part of the course that gets the most attention. But as you alluded to just a moment ago, you want to run the start of the race smart. What does the start of the race look like?
Yeah, so I would say, my advice for those first, what is it, 6 to 7 miles that are very downhill is you want to run that super, super easy. It really can wreck your quads, even if you've been training on some hills and you feel like you are ready for that part of it. It can still come as a shock sometimes, and you feel that later in the race, even if you're feeling good the first 7, 10, 13 miles. So I would say go out a lot easier than you think you can run. Take your pace that you're hoping to run for a marathon, maybe Boston specifically or another one, but take some time off that for the beginning, or at least run, I think Gustavo used the term mind-numbingly easy for that beginning. So I'll steal that quickly, but that's really important to do. And then I would say once you get past that and it flattens out a little bit, making your way to the half marathon, take some time to focus on like keeping your arms super low and loose, shake them out a little bit, because that's really also where you don't want to start tightening up early. That's when you expend more energy. If you start to get tight, your form, changes a little bit. If you're staying super loose, keeping the pace easy, that's when you can kind of hopefully get to past Heartbreak, and then you're bombing down the last 5 miles there, down Brookline and into Boston. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind. Even after those downhills at the beginning, take some time to regroup and still stay calm, because I think that's another thing that people run into is you maybe go a little fast and then you hold some of that pace too once it flattens out. And I think that combo really hurts a lot of runners, both experienced and inexperienced.
So you will recommend in the beginning, just keep the training your marathon pace. Don't go faster. If anything, go slower, right? So we
Yeah, you really want to keep it very easy, because it's gonna be, it you lose it very quickly, and if you go just 1%, 2% too hard, that can be, the make or break for the race at the end. Whereas if, you go a little bit slower in the beginning, you're hopefully going to feel great at the end. Because the other part of my advice there is, um, if you run conservatively and you're kind of accelerating on the back half, a lot of people are going to be slowing down there. And so it's very motivating when you get to that part where there's a lot of fans, there's a great atmosphere, and you're maybe able to pass some other runners. That feels really great. You feel like you're picking up momentum, you're feeding off of the crowd, versus if you feel really, tired and dead and you feel like you're slowing down at that point. That's just, a little less motivating, right? If you've been at that point in a marathon before, it does not feel good. And so, being able to go downhill at the end of the race, with, the crowd getting very, very excited as you get closer and closer to the finish, that's, a great way to finish the Boston Marathon.
Yeah. Did
Thank you.
anyone in the experts want to add on to or touch upon what Sean has said there?
Yeah, I have a thought about the Newton Hills specifically. I did a lot of running with Sean in college together. This will be my second Boston coming up. Ran it last year in a time of 2:59, coming right under that 3 hours. Um, for me, the biggest helpful thing with of coming up on the Newton Hills, of course, like you have to run the first half of the race really smartly, and not write checks that your body can't cash later on. But for me, the biggest thing was being almost like comically intense about the positive self-talk going up the Newton Hills. Really going hard on saying to myself as I'm going up the hills, like it sounds cheesy, but just saying to yourself, like, I was born for this kind of thing. I was made to do this. I trained for this, and it's finally here. And now I'm just going to make good on everything I've done. That really pushes you up and over the hill. And then you come and see the big banner at the end that says, "Welcome to the top of Heartbreak Hill." It like at that point, it's party time. So the positive self-talk aspect of it, I think, is super important.
Mhm. Yeah, funny story. When I ran Boston for the first time in 2022, I didn't even know I was running up Heartbreak Hill because I kind of just smushed all the Newton Hills together. I'm like, are there three? Are there four? Like, clearly I hadn't studied the course map super, super in depth. So I just thought I was on another one of the Newton Hills. And it wasn't until I got to the top and I saw the banner, I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like, it's just another hill. And knowing that they're there and anticipating them and
Hmm.
expecting them, I don't think they're as big or scary as sometimes people make them out to be. But that also comes back with the discipline in the earlier part of the race. And one thing that I wanted to add on to what John and Sean have said is that the first like 3 miles of the race are pretty congested. So when I ran it in 2022, I actually couldn't even hit marathon pace for the first 5K because it was so congested. And actually having that hold me back was a benefit. At the time, I was a little bit frustrated. It's like, oh my gosh, I have a pace to hit, da da da. It was a blessing in disguise that things were a little crowded at first because I was 5 to 7 seconds per kilometer, sorry, Canadian, 5 to 7 seconds per kilometer slower than what I wanted to be for those first 3 miles or for those first 5 kilometers. And I chose not to expend extra energy by trying to like weave around people, make up pace, make up time, path. It's like, it's fine. The first 5K, like as the other coaches have said, like it is okay to hold back a bit, to show some restraint, to not burn a match or use extra energy trying to weave around people. It will open up, it will thin out naturally. So just showing that bit of restraint and control in the first couple of miles of the course, especially with the downhill, I think really can pay dividends in the latter part. And something that I try to share with my own athletes is like, don't try to bank time because, well, I always hit the wall at this point anyway. So I'm just going to bank that time early. It literally does not work that way. Like you don't get that energy back. Like it usually only goes the opposite way. So I say to like try to listen to your effort, but don't be forcing it just because you're running downhill and just because you think to save yourself 30 seconds in the back half of the course. So I just wanted to add that own little bit of 2 cents there.
Yeah. To talk about the hills more, what else can you talk about at Boston? But the Newton Hills really aren't all that bad. Like the other coaches and everybody will say that taking that first 5K downhill is really where as easy as possible is going to be the best benefit to tackling those hills later on, because the hills really aren't that bad. And for context, I'm Coach Gustavo. I grew up in Texas, so very far away from Boston. It's very hot here. I grew up in College Station, which is very flat, so there's no hill to even try to emulate the course on. But since I moved to Austin, there's plenty of hills over here to practice on. But I'm mostly doing like downhill running, so a lot of downhill strides for the last several weeks to ward off rhabdo more than anything else, and to build up that, because you can a little late now for anybody who's still training right now this moment, but those hills really aren't all that bad. Like I had the same experience the first year. I ended up finishing 247, which was way off my what I was planning on doing. I was on pace at halfway during my first year for 232 actually, so the heat got to me 2 years ago. But once I got to the top of Newton, I was more struggling with cramping from the heat and everything, and like I was frustrated because ended up walking up those hills. But it wasn't because the hills themselves were really all that bad. It was just the dehydration, just from the what was it that year? I think it got up to 80 degrees by the time I finished. Complete sun, and we had a tailwind that was coming behind us, matching our same speed. So we didn't. Everybody was baking. It was a rough year. Then last year, a similar thing happened. There was more of a cross breeze, but the sun still came out. And last year, my only goal for the entire race was to make it up all the hills without slowing down more than I intended to, or hitting a walk, and because I knew they weren't that bad. So for last year, I ended up finishing, I think 239 was my time for Boston. But yeah, the congestion at the beginning, though, that's I'm glad you brought that up, because it can be a mess, and a lot of people will like to compete and shove elbows, and I'm like, there's like 30,000 people around us. There's no need to compete. Like, just be calm, stay in your own lane. If you look on the ground, for a lot of the course, 2 years ago, it was along the entire course. Last year, it was only for the first like 5K and then the last 5K. If you look on the ground, you'll see 3 blue stripes that will be painted on the ground. Those are the tangent lines. If you want to run the shortest possible route at Boston, just try to stick onto those lines. For some reason, the last 2 years, nobody else around me was running around or on those lines. I guess nobody knew what they were. But if you wanted to cut your distance and, as much as possible to get as close to that marathon, 26.22 exactly, run those lines on the ground, and it'll help you avoid the congestion, because everybody's just kind of doing something willy-nilly. Just try to stay in your own lane, stay in your own. It's your race. Like, sure, there's 30,000 other people around you, but like, it's your race. You're there for you, to try to make it through this course, the most famous, most studied course in the entire world. But yeah.
Any questions based on anything that Sean, John, Gustavo, or myself have shared so far about the course or strategy of how to run potentially the first half versus the second half of the race?
I don't have any question, but thank you for that's like when you talk. This is my first time, so Chad had ran it before, and Chad had say, if you used to the hill around us, don't worry about the hills. So, and I'm still, still back my mind that that we have to hit some hills. So, yeah. But would there be? I saw in the email, Elaina, I think you said there's going to be a shakeout run. Would there be other people that is doing that is part of, I guess, your team training there, that will be there, that
like people that I specifically coach their lawn?
I guess everybody. In general, right? Would there be other runners?
People signed up? Yeah, there has been, I would say, an overwhelmingly positive response to people that have signed up to join the Shakeout Run. I don't want to misspeak, but it's on the Sunday. Is it 10 a.m. at Boston Commons? Is that what we agreed upon there, guys?
Yep, and I'll be there. So I'm planning to be there at the shakeout run.
Yeah. So if anyone has Team Run Run gear, whether it's a singlet, a hat, something, feel free to wear it so that you can spot one another, because anyone that has run Boston before or any race before, there are lots of shakeout runs happening the day before. Like it's just clumps and clumps of people. So if anyone has any Team Run Run swag or gear to wear, so that you're like, oh, that's the group that I'm running with, please feel free to wear it. I led a shakeout run in Chicago in 2024. We met at the Bean, which is the most popular place to meet and start your shakeout run.
Mhm.
And even though I had signs and stuff, like it is overwhelming. It is hard to pick out your group. So I would advise even just like showing up 10, 15 minutes early, just so like if you need to like look around or see where the group might be. But there should be a good group of people doing the shakeout run, which is
It'd be
nice.
great. It would be great to meet, other than Chad, somebody with our pace.
Are you getting tired of your training partner there, Leon?
I see this guy almost every day.
Let's just say he's now wearing his headphones when he runs with us. Runs with me.
I wanted to touch upon, I don't know if it was something that Sean said or John, but I wanted to just point out, because you guys mentioned if you run the first half of the course smart, you can pass people on the Newton Hills, because people that don't run the first part of the course smartly and burn their match, go out way too hot. What is the expression someone said, like cash checks that you can't write or whatever. It is very motivating to be passing people on an uphill and they're either walking or have stopped, whatever. And you can use that bit of fuel motivation to know, like, hey, like I've paced this well, I've conserved some energy. Once you get past heartbreak, like the last part of the course is pretty fast, right? So if you've got something left in the tank, it is very motivating to be able to either pick it up or still be maintaining your pace when other people are going backwards. So I just wanted to double down on whoever had brought up that point too.
Another
There's nothing
thing,
better than mowing people down during that last 10K. I think last year, I must have, if you looked at on the app afterwards, when you can see how many people you actually passed within the last 4 to 5 miles, I think, and I ended up passing around 200 people in the in the last 10K because I was feeling good. Mowing that many people down is just so much fun. My goodness, I mean, I feel bad for the other people, but like maybe they should have trained harder. I don't know, gotten a coach or something.
And
But yeah, no.
one of the nice things about Boston too, it's like, yes, we've talked about the first half versus the second half, but there are so many distinct parts of the course. And John and Sean, you guys will know particularly well, given that you went to school there or live there, but you can really chunk the race down and break it down. It's like, oh, I'm in Framingham. Oh, I'm in Natick. Oh, I'm in Newton. Like instead of just thinking of first half, second half, like you can break it down into cities, and then you have these like bite-sized manageable chunks that like, oh, you can look forward to the Wellesley Scream Tower here. You can look forward to the Boston College guys here. Like whatever it is that helps to pass the time or break down the distance so it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, I have 26.2 miles to run. It's like, oh, I have this many miles in this city. And then I go to this city for another couple of miles. And then I go to this city for another couple of miles. Sometimes it's just about literally playing mind games with yourself and helping, just break it down and chunk it into manageable pieces.
yeah, and on the
Speaking of, oh, sorry.
no, you go, John.
Speaking of breaking things down into manageable pieces, this trick for some reason it works for me just in general with the marathon now, where I met this guy from Mexico, so he was working in kilometers, and we were talking about how to break a marathon down, and I think first 10 miles, second 10 miles, last 10K. And then I asked him how he does it, and he goes, it's 3 by 14K with a 200-meter sprint. And that stuck with me for whatever reason.
That's
I
I
love
have
that.
not heard that one before. As someone who thinks in kilometers, being the Canadian that I am, I've never heard that one. So that's
Yeah.
interesting.
I think about that a lot now. So now that's where my head's at. 3 by 14K and then a 200-meter sprint at the end.
Yeah, that's funny. I've had friends that have broken it down to like 4 by 10 kilometers with obviously a little
Yeah.
extra too. Whatever strategy works for you to help break down that distance and make it seem more manageable. Something that hasn't been talked upon or talked about yet, but it's like the crowds. Boston is known for its crowds, right? And I don't know what different races people are coming to this having qualified for, but in general, the world majors tend to be pretty lit. Like there is not really a quiet spot on the course, in my opinion, especially if you get a good weather day and it's not like circa 2018 or whatever it was that
Yeah.
one. So some people might say like use the crowds for energy. Some people might say like hold back a little bit, don't get too fired up or too amped up by the crowds. Find your happy medium. Something that really kept me going in 2022, it's like I took the time to look around, like, oh, that's a cute sign. Like I powered up on like a 4-year-old sign and gave him a high five. Like if it is especially your first Boston Marathon experience, like soak it up, enjoy it. Like you will never get your first Boston again. Like I did Boston in 2022 and 2023. I had way more fun in 2022. Right? I think I just enjoyed the atmosphere. I soaked it up for what it was. Did I have a time goal? Yes. But I also knew that I was never going to have this experience. Even if I ran another Boston, I was never going to have this experience again. So look around, look left and right, read a sign, high five someone, like smile at strangers. They are so giving of their time and energy. And even if you are going through a rough patch, they will help carry you through. Those crowds are there to motivate you. If you start walking, or whatever, like they will cheer you on to start running again. So use that in the best way possible is what I would also add.
Yeah, and on the mental aspect in the crowd, I touched earlier on, trying to keep yourself loose, especially in that, whole first half of the race. Um, on to that and on the mental side, in the marathon, I feel like the longer you can get through the race where it still feels like your warm up, the better your race is going to go. You can't specifically say how long that's going to be, but you always want to run super easy until you get to that part where it does start to get hard. Inevitably every marathon gets hard at some point, but if you just stay really loose, it can feel a little bit like a warm up, again depending on the day, the weather, that may get harder sooner rather than later depending on the day. But in terms of like using the crowd, what I tell my athletes is the marathon's a very long race to try and be, locked in and serious the whole time. So I don't know what everybody's, style is, but, it's not a 5K or a 3K where you can really be serious and locked in and you're trying to run your pace. It's like you have to have fun with it and you have to stay loose and, yeah, be looking around at the crowd, like Elaina said, and be soaking all of that in. Like it's way too long to be like, all right, I got to hit my pace for, mile, 5K, 10K. Like if you're just thinking about that the whole time, you're going to probably start to tense up or just, over rotate on thinking about that stuff. But if you are looking around and almost kind of, passing the time by looking at all the crowds and kind of soaking up that energy, I think that's the best way to stay loose for, 26 miles.
I will say with the crowds, I almost found them excessively loud the first year. I Last year I decided to take they're like high fidelity earphone or earplugs. They're called Vibes, I think is the brand I got. There's a million different ones out there. Musicians use them all the time. They make it so that it kind of dulls the sound a bit. Because the first year I was almost overwhelmed by the sound. Like having grown up in kind of a small town doing a bunch of small races, I'd never seen crowds like that ever. And it was mind boggling. Like literally, I couldn't hear myself think. Like there wasn't time to process anything because of how loud it was. And it was right on the precipice of like what I think I could actually handle before it would like start to affect me. So last year I actually took those vibes, and during the louder parts of the course, like the scream tunnel, I would take them out of my belt and put them in for a second just to, so I can not tune everything out because I still want to hear the crowd. Like there's nothing better than, high-fiving everybody around it, but just something to dull it a little bit. Just because it's so loud, like, which is incredible. For a lot of my athletes that when it is their first Boston, I tell them that I took my first Boston as my practice Boston. So like no real time goal, just went completely off of effort, like mostly just so I could soak in the race. And I had to like just like Elaina said, like everybody's first Boston, you only get one. And almost certainly you'll go do another one after you do the first one. So take in the course, take in the crowd, high five every little kid with their power up sign. Put your hands out. And my favorite thing to do, especially during the last 5K stretch, is to start raising your hands up, get the crowds engaged. Especially if you're near the front and things are really thinned out. Like I'll hear patches of not dead silence because it's Boston, but a bit of quiet. And then you pump your hands up, and then everybody just erupts, and it's amazing, just absolutely incredible. And if you're having a bad time during that last 10K, it would actually, if you start to pick it up during, like if, say you slow down to a walk during that last 10K, once you start running again, the crowds will erupt. It's incredible. There's nothing more motivating during or while having a bad time than when that happens.
Yeah,
I would say don't bother wearing headphones because you won't hear them.
Oh yeah,
more than half of it. Yeah.
And something that a few of the coaches have touched upon about, like, the mental side of racing Boston is, like, they've already kind of said, expect that at some point in the race, it will get difficult, whether it's mile 20 or mile 18 or 21 or 22. Every person is different. Maybe it depends on your pacing, your training, etc. Maybe it's specifically at the hills. Maybe it's before that. But I would say know what you're going to tell yourself before race day. Have a mantra, have a statement, have something that you can come back to during those difficult miles. I know that this is not about Boston, but when I ran Chicago in 2024, I kept telling myself, like, race with joy. That was my mantra during the race. So around kilometer 35 or 36, when it started to get difficult for me, I tried to practice joy and gratitude. Everyone's mantra is individual and unique, but the whole point of my takeaway is, I guess, one, expect that it will get hard at some point, and that is okay. That is why we train for this. We train to do hard things. And I tell my own athletes, you can feel like it can feel hard for a while. It doesn't have to feel good to to continue going, right? Your perceived effort might go up, but a lot of the time you can still maintain your marathon pace even at a higher perceived effort. So expect that it will get hard at some point and be prepared for that. Have your mantra, have something that you want to tell yourself or remind yourself in those moments.
The cliche mantra that I like to repeat, especially for this course, it's super appropriate for this course, is run the mile you're in. I don't think there's a course out there that is split so nicely into mile, like each mile. Every mile is so unique and different. You can find different articles on the internet that break down this course mile by mile, and they each have their own aspect that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. But really, really, it is run the mile you're in, check in with yourself every mile. Just after running however many marathons I've done at this point, like, marathons are hard, man. Like, they're all hard. Like, they're not an easy thing to do. Boston is just a very special, unique one, in that the course is just is one that can be mastered. I think it can be a PR course, but you have to do it at least once to really get a feel for it. But yeah, running the mile you're in is definitely the one that I came back to a lot during my first two Bostons.
Something that also hasn't been necessarily touched upon yet on this call, but I think it's certainly worth a small discussion, is getting on the bus and commuting down to the start of the race. It is a long enough journey. You have to get up early, even if your start time is until 10, 10:30, 11, whatever it is. Pack an extra snack or an extra gel, please. Even if I am not your coach on this call, like, you don't want to be sitting in the athletes village for 90 minutes, 2 hours, not having extra fuel. You'll be doing yourself a disservice if you do not have an extra snack or a little carb top up, a little sugar top up, whatever. So I would just really recommend bringing an extra snack if you're going to be sitting around in the athletes village for a while.
Yeah, I wanted to give a technical tip there too, because I agree, Elena. I haven't done, all the majors. I've just done Boston, Chicago on the major, spectrum, but it's pretty unique from a marathon major perspective and just like a local marathon, where, like, most marathons start pretty early, and which probably replicates when you do most of your long runs or like a lot of your training and hard workouts. You're probably doing those earlier in the morning, earlier in the day, I would guess. Not everybody's schedule does that, but I think traditionally that's when runners try to do their long run. It's not at 11 a.m. or noon. You're usually waking up in the morning to do it, or on race day, a lot of races are at 6, 7, 8 a.m. Boston is, at the earliest it's 10 a.m. A lot of people are starting a good deal later than that too, and so do not eat breakfast too early. Like that, I think you'll kind of pay for that. So I think err on the side of eating it later and closer to the race, because it's probably going to be a little different than like what you've been training for. But yeah, like Elena said, you don't want to get to the start of the race and you almost already feel depleted.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I would say, same, same advice you would get for any marathon. Try not to eat anything new. Try to keep it all simple, simple stuff. Or for the last two Bostons, I brought Pop-Tarts with me, just an entire box, and that's kind of what I ate the whole way and shared it with a couple guys. Because I know that's what sits well with my stomach and sits well with a lot of people's stomach. It's super processed and, very simple sugars. So it makes it really easy to hold it down. I was like, as runners, nutrition is completely different for us than it is for the general population. So Pop-Tarts, perfect solution for this. They're prepackaged. You don't have to worry about them. They will sometimes check your bags when you are taking them with you. You'll get a bag that you can take to the start. So they'll look at it and they'll just see that it's Pop-Tarts and they won't mind at all that you bring it. They won't think it's anything scary. I will say, keep in mind the logistics. If this is your first Boston, like the race itself, once you're at the start line, like it's just a marathon. Like you just got to go run 26 miles now. Like that's all it is. The logistics leading up to it is what can get people messed up. That's why I'm glad you brought up eating carbs beforehand. Typically, what I recommend is 4 hours before having your first meal of 50 to 150 grams of carbs, depending on what you're used to, and then 2 hours before, which you'll have to take on you because you'll most likely be on the bus or you'll already be at Athletes Village at that point. Have the next 50 to 100 grams of carbs, whatever you want to take in at that time, or whatever your coach recommends for you. But try to be calm, make friends on the bus. That's how I got my entry into London. Actually, is my friend I met a friend on the bus who let me use his address to sign up for London as somebody who lives in London. So that's why I get to do London next year, which is very exciting. So you never know who you meet. The first year I met a Spaniard and he wanted to get me into Valencia, and I was like, I don't think I can make this Spain. Boston was expensive enough. But yeah, make friends, but try to be calm. Find a dry spot on the ground if you're able. Since Sean and John, y'all are around the area, y'all might have friends that have houses in Hopkinton. Getting into any house in Hopkinton is the golden standard. I was lucky to get into the charity area last year because I raised money for the sustainability part of Boston. So being in a covered gym with just absolute silence was incredible. Like there's nobody around. There's plenty of water. I think I took a nap for like 45 minutes because it was just so much time. It was so quiet. But if anybody can manage to get into or find a brand that'll take them into one of the houses at Hopkinton, that's the golden way to go. But otherwise, just make sure you get on the bus early enough. It's Boston by far, I think, is probably the most organized race that I have ever participated in. Like now having Berlin as a comparable in terms of the majors, Berlin was an absolute wreck. I already knew Boston ran incredible, but like to see the extent to which a race like that can handle that many people, like Boston is like, you'll be fine. Like ask any volunteer, any question. Most of them have all the answers or will point you to the right person who has answers. But when you get on the buses, will be determined by your bib and your bib number and your bib color. So you'll find your specific bus that you need to get on, and make friends. Just make sure you plan it out, have everything on you, take an extra of everything on you, and know that they do have Morton gels on the course. Most of my athletes come back after the finish with more Morton gels on them than they started. So but there is plenty on the course.
Glad you brought that up, Gustavo, because I was actually just about to mention the gels do not start right away. Like there will not be a gel station the first 5 miles or like I have to double check the map. I unfortunately don't have it open in front of me, but I don't think it's until at least the 10-mile mark, maybe later.
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think it's like 18K or something, because I think in kilometers, that will be your first aid station with gels. So please, 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 obviously I'm looking at Lon and Chad because I coach you, but in general, everyone on this call, please plan accordingly. Do not rely on the on-course fuel, knowing that you will not get that first aid station for quite a ways into the race, like almost the halfway mark, I want to say, based on my recollection. So ensure that you have enough fuel on you to at least get you to that point. I wanted to put that out there because it is not like another race where you will have aid stations every mile, every 2 miles. No, there will not be Morton gels until almost the halfway point.
Before I lose it in my head, you mentioned that some of these people are going to be starting at like 11:15, 11:30. Bring a hat, for the love of God, bring a hat. The last 2 years have been full sun the entire time. There is free sunscreen provided during the walk over to the after Athletes Village, walking towards the starting corral. There's free sunscreen. There's plenty of it. There's actually even people that will help you put it on. I don't know if people are uncomfortable with that, but they will help you put it on and make sure you get everything. Because if you put it on, because you can't take sunscreen with you onto the buses, they won't let it on, which is why they provide that. If you put on sunscreen, at 6:15 or 6:30, whenever you decide to get on the bus, like it probably won't be doing much at 10 a.m., 11 a.m. when you actually start. Not to mention during when you're actually running the course at middle of the day with the highest UV index that there is, depending on the weather, obviously. I'm praying for a cloudy year this year. That would be really nice. But make sure to wear a hat. Make sure to prepare. Bring, like we've said, with the weather, everybody obsesses about the weather at Boston. Just bring anything that you could ever think would happen. Like last 2 years, the couple days before were cold and cloudy, and the days of were a little warm and completely sunny. So bring stuff for cold weather, bring stuff for hot weather, and at minimum bring sunglasses or a hat just for the sun itself.
Yeah, to add on to the whole sunscreen thing, definitely bring a hat because I used the sunscreen that they had last year. It was not enough. I ended up finishing the race with, the entire right side of my body being entirely sunburned. So definitely bring a hat, splash some water on yourself if you need to. Just do what you got to do to cool yourself down, if it's a hot day, especially.
There are a couple ice stations along the course, usually set up by people who just live along the course. Like I don't think there's an official ice station, but the people that'll bring in giant buckets of ice that you can just grab. It's good to hold it in your palm as well. There's a bunch of literature that says that helps with cooling the entire body. Just holding ice in your hand or even on your wrist if you can manage it can help a lot. Depending on how hot it is, obviously, we'll all see how the weather plans out. But yeah, there are people that have ice and water on the course that aren't part of the race itself. So if you're not looking to win the race or podium, or you're looking for money, then like take the stuff that the people are giving you. Like, don't worry about getting disqualified. Nobody's gonna say anything.
Just be careful taking a drink from a college kid at the top of the hill.
That too, yeah.
You can wind up with the very sticky beer all over you.
Are there any other questions that we haven't touched upon or answered in any of our own ramblings, any of the experts or coaches on the call? No, we've talked a little bit about the Athletes Village, getting on the buses, fueling, nutrition, aid stations, the downhills, the uphills. Any other questions from athletes on the call?
Another small technical thing just for those Newton Hills specifically, probably shorten the stride a little bit. I don't know if folks practice this already, but usually a bit more effective way to get uphill and not expend too much energy. Again, it is at like Gustavo said, the hills aren't that bad, but they are placed at a point in the race that's a little bit more challenging. And so, trying to get through them, shorten the stride a little bit, you'll get up there, keep focused and you'll get there.
For everybody who's run Boston, what are your favorite restaurants to eat the night before?
I think I ate at Newbury in 2023. I don't remember what it was called, but we were actually very fortunate. We had a group of like 15 of us, and we were able to make a reservation.
Wow.
And we all got to, I think it was just like honestly like a bistro pub grill, like nothing fancy, but there's so many good spots on Newbury. And
yeah, I mean, in my case, my son actually goes to Berklee College of Music, so he's right by the finish line. So we'll probably go to Italy, Eatley.
Nice.
Italy's
Huge
very
place.
famous.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place. You get anything you need.
love it.
And
I like to
the
get a little
Italian,
bit outside the downtown area just because it's so hectic and it's so hard getting a reservation for anybody. So I typically, I mean, I live in a town called Somerville, which is along the subway lines, but I typically go there or Cambridge or something like that just to kind of like get away from the craziness and have my own little like Zen moment at a restaurant before, you know, locking in, but not locking in too hard, like Sean said.
If you're staying downtown, there's Maggiano's, if you want to get some good carbs in, that's pretty close to the finish line, I believe. I've eaten there post Boston before. But I usually will try to stay at my folks' place in Newton. Like I said, I grew up there, so that's
Lucky.
usually where I am the night before.
So I've heard your parents are having us all over for dinner that night.
Yep, exactly. Well, if you shouldn't do that though, because I have two toddlers, so they're going to be there as well. So you won't get a good night's sleep.
My favorite place to hit up is a place called Red White Ramen. It's little known. I think one of the influencers, Tommy Runs, he actually went to it last year, and I think it might be a little more known this year. But last year, or the first year and last year, was very. It was their. I think it's their second year open. Like I think they were literally open for like 3 weeks up to that on during 2024. Red White Ramen. It's a they do carry out, so you can just it's all vegetarian ramens, so it's easy on the stomach. There's plenty of carbs. It's ramen. What can you? I mean, like it's fantastic. That's been my go-to. And then another one I've recommended is closer to Somerville, actually. A place called, I think it's literally called like La Familia Italiana. Like it's just the family Italy place. It's a little pricier, but they're they have every pasta you could ever want. Very hearty, very good. And it's a little further away from downtown, so there's not going to be huge crowds there or anything like that.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Or you feeling pretty good? Any questions that you wanted to ask either individually or they kind of got organically answered along the way?
Well, I will say that when I ran it in 2012, when I got there on Saturday, it was 45 and raining, and then race day was in the 80s. So I'm not even going to look at clothing and weather until about the day before.
Yeah, around here, I went to water the garden this morning, and the hose was frozen. So that's where we're at right now.
Good to know.
And we got a little snow yesterday. John, did you get snow up in Somerville?
Yep, it was snowing at the end of my track workout yesterday.
Yeah. So,
And then it's going to get up to 70 next week at some point. So
it's
No, don't say
it,
that.
this time of year in Boston, like Gustavo said, it's pretty unpredictable. So
you get the one warm day in February and it's called Fool's Spring or something like that.
Yeah, I'm usually checking like honestly 3, maybe 4 days out, but like I don't check before the 1 week mark. Usually 4 days out is when I'm slowly starting to check. But also just recognize that like the weather is one of the things you can't control regardless. Plan for it, pack for it, as people on the call have mentioned, pack your hat, throwaway clothes, whatever. But at the end of the day, everyone's running in the same conditions, right? So
Oh, I know a thing to bring up. Spectators. If you have spectators with you, make sure they have plans as to what they're doing, where they're going to be. My wife, for the last 2 years, has set up right at the finish line, and she had to get there pretty shortly after I left off the buses at like 6:30 in the morning. We typically stay close to the finish line, anyways, but yeah, if you have anybody spectating with you, know that they do have to get there early. Like the professionals go off at 9:37 is I think the first start time, so they'll be done at 11:37 ish, give or take. So the for people who are spectating, make sure you have a plan for where they're going to stand, and especially if they want to be right on the rails, especially near the finish line, or even just that entire last mile. They won't be able to move. Like they have to be there if they're. I can't remember which side of the street it is. It's going to be super important to figure out which one it is. But one side of the street, they will check your bags. The other side, when you go back and forth, the other side of the street, which is the same side that the family check-in afterwards is, they'll only check your bags one time. So if you can manage to be on whatever side of the street that is, where you can meet up with your family afterwards. I think that's the side that has the not as nice view, but it's easier to meet up with your family afterwards and have a spot afterwards. I don't know how many people actually carry their phones on them with them during races. I typically don't, so I waddle, or my wife and I, since I'm a Lululemon ambassador, we just plan to meet up at the Lululemon like a quarter mile away from the finish line. So that was our spot. That's where we meet every year.
And I just
yeah,
wanted to back on that slightly, athletes just know that you will be walking for a while to be corralled out at the finish line. It is not you cross the line, you're walking onto the sidewalk. No, you are going to be walking down that street for quite a while until the barriers end. And I think they usually funnel you towards like Newbury. So that's where my meetup point was, one street parallel essentially to the finishing line. I met at one of the corners of a storefront, like Gustavo said. But it is not just easy to cross the finish line and step onto the sidewalk. You will be corralled out for quite a while. So just keep that in mind.
Which I think is good for the legs, actually. You don't like doing it in the moment, but it'll help you already start to recover. So it's always the worst thing in the moment, but then sometimes when you just cross the finish line and collapse for an hour or two, that actually really hurts you. But I was also going to say on the spectators, one thing that has changed over the years, I think Chad, you mentioned the last time was 2012. After 2013, they have definitely beefed up finish line security, which if you have, friends, loved ones coming to watch, and it's going to be pretty crazy and busy. So if they're trying, not to miss you, have them plan for some time there because you're going to be waiting in line if you're checking a bag. If they come with nothing, it's a little bit quicker. But just know if they need to bring supplies, bags, if you have kids or anything like that, like it's going to take some time to get through the bag check. I made that mistake watching my wife run in 2019 because I hadn't gone to the finish line, post 2013, and I was not ready for it, and I like nearly missed her because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say to Gustavo's point, I will not carry my phone, but my family will know because I'm going to carry an air tag.
Mm-hmm. Genius.
And they don't really care about seeing me finish because I've done like 50 marathons. So they'll
What's another
probably be shopping. They'll probably be shopping.
Okay.
Oh, I will say for those who do actually want to go to the Lululemon, there's typically nobody there. They have it's open for everybody on race day. They have like 10 sets of Normatec boots and all the chocolate milk and protein bites that you could absolutely want. So feel free to go there. You do have to take a flight of stairs up to the second story, which is a little rude, but but free Normatec boot access if you want. It's about a half a mile away from the finish line.
Okay. Well, if there are no further questions, we will wrap things up. Coaches, as soon as I get the link, I will share this on Discord. So if you have athletes that are racing Boston, you can send the recording link to them. Obviously, Lon, Chad, you were on this call, but I have other athletes that weren't. So we can disseminate this link to anyone who is unable to join us in real time. Our experts, thank you for your time, your knowledge, and your experience. It is so valuable, and I really appreciate hearing multiple people's perspectives of the race, hearing commonalities or unique experiences, and just hopefully some of our athletes on the call got some good takeaways, are feeling a bit more prepared, maybe a bit more confident heading into Marathon Monday. And just one last plug and reminder for the Shakeout Run, which we mentioned will be the day before the race. So Sunday, April 19th, 10 a.m. local time at Boston Commons. And if you have Team RunRun swag or anything, please wear it, make yourself noticeable, and try and, now that you've at least seen some of the people on the call, you kind of know who you're looking out for, and take some pictures that we can hopefully share it in the next Team RunRun newsletter or on social media. It should be a pretty solid group of people coming out for the Shakeout Run. So thank you again, and best of luck, everyone, in your taper. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Have fun, everybody. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.